Going into Dexter Season 5, my expectations were still sky high. Season 4 had left such a lasting impression on me. It wasn't just the best season of the show, it was one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. That finale with Rita's death was devastating, shocking, and absolutely iconic, so naturally, I was dying to see how the writers would handle the fallout. I wanted to see how Dexter would grieve, how he would balance being a single father while still carrying on his dark passenger, and how the supporting characters would react to such a massive tragedy. At the same time, I had heard from a lot of people that this season was a step down, that it couldn't possibly live up to what came before. So in the back of my mind, I was worried it wouldn't hit the same heights. But even with those concerns, I was still really excited. I loved this show too much to not go in with optimism. After finishing the season, I think both sides of that expectation proved true. On one end, yes, Season 5 is definitely a step down from the brilliance of Season 4. It doesn't have a villain as memorable as Trinity. The tension isn't as nail-biting, and the ending isn't anywhere near as powerful. But on the other hand, I still think this season is very good and actually underrated. It tells a very different kind of story, more personal, more introspective, more about trauma and healing than about Dexter juggling his family life and his serial killer identity. I actually liked that change of pace. Season 4 was so explosive and intense that trying to top it would have been impossible. So instead, the writers went for something quieter and more character-driven, and for the most part, I think it works pretty well. The synopsis of this season is fairly straightforward, but effective. We pick up immediately after Rita's murder, with Dexter in complete shock. He blames himself, he questions whether his lifestyle directly caused her death, and he's left with the crushing responsibility of raising Harrison alone. His grief defines the early part of the season, and the show doesn't shy away from showing him broken, vulnerable, and completely unsure of how to move forward. Enter Lumen, played by Julia Stiles. She's a survivor of a brutal group that abuses and kills women, and her trauma parallels Dexter's in a very interesting way. Instead of being another character who might one day discover Dexter's secret, she becomes someone who shares in it. The season's main arc is essentially Dexter and Lumen teaming up to track down and kill the man responsible for what happened to her. Along the way, we get new characters like Jordan Chase, a motivational speaker who serves as the main villain and the ringleader of the group. It's a very different setup than previous seasons, but it gives Season 5 its own identity and focus. There are a lot of positives here. First and foremost, the characters in the cast continue to be excellent. Michael C. Hall does such a great job showing a more vulnerable side of Dexter. We're used to him being cold and calculated, but this season really dives into his pain and humanity. Julia Stiles as Lumen is fantastic. She brings so much raw emotion to the role, and her chemistry with Dexter feels genuine. I love how the season directly carries on from the Season 4 finale. They don't just move on quickly or treat Rita's death as a shock value moment. Her absence is felt throughout the season, and it shapes Dexter in profound ways. The storyline with Lumen also works better than I expected. It could have easily felt like a gimmick or a one-off distraction, but the way it's handled gives us something fresh, while still tying into Dexter's world. Jordan Chase is a fantastic villain. While he doesn't quite reach the legendary heights of Trinity, he still brings a unique presence to the show. His whole philosophy of take it and the manipulative, almost cult-like way he controls people makes him chilling in a very different way. Isn't just physically threatening, he's psychologically intimidating, which makes him a great counter to Dexter. Watching Dexter navigate that dynamic is really engaging, and it gives the season its own distinct flavor instead of just trying to replicate what came before. Another big positive is the overall theme of this season. It's about grief, it's about healing, and whether or not people can change or move on from their pasts. Lumen's arc is essentially about reclaiming her life after being a victim, and Dexter's arc is about figuring out whether he can still be a father in the person after losing Rhea. I really appreciated how different that felt from the other seasons, and it kept me invested even though it wasn't as flashy or iconic as season 4. That said, there are definitely some negatives that keep this season from being truly great. The biggest one for me, hands down, is the Batista and the Gorta relationship. I hated how they carried it on this season. In season 4, I thought their marriage subplot was surprisingly sweet and worked in the larger picture, but here it feels forced and unnatural. Every time it came up, it just felt like filler, and it added nothing meaningful to the story. It's one of those subplots that makes you groan whether the show cuts to it. One of the most frustrating parts of this season is Deborah's blind spot when it comes to Dexter. Once again, she gets closer and closer to uncovering his secret, and just when it seems like she's about to connect the dots, the writers pull back. This has happened before, but in season 5 it feels especially repetitive. Deborah is such a sharp, determined character, and for her to constantly stop just short of the truth starts to feel unnatural. It's like the writers are afraid to let her truly discover who Dexter is, and that hesitation ends up holding the season back from reaching its full potential. But the thing I hate the most is the ending. After everything Dexter and Lumen go through, the way the season wraps up feels atrocious. It completely undercuts her character and the bond that she formed with Dexter. It's almost like the writers wanted to hit a reset button so things wouldn't be too different going into season 6, and it really frustrated me. The way they resolved her storyline made the whole season feel a little hollow, like none of it mattered in the long run. Compared to the jaw-dropping ending of season 4, the finale here is a massive letdown. Overall, though, I still really enjoyed season 5. It's not on the level of seasons 1 to 4, but it's a strong season in its own right. It's more about grief and trauma than about high-stakes cat-and-mouse games, and I appreciate that. The characters are great, the cast delivers, the Lumen storyline adds a new dynamic, and while the ending is frustrating, the journey getting there is still really good. I'd personally give this season an 8 out of 10, and I think it's one of the more underrated parts of the series. As always, those are just my thoughts, but I want to hear what you think. Did you enjoy season 5? Or do you think it really is the step down that so many fans claim it to be? What did you think of the Dexter and Lumen partnership? And how do you feel about the way the season ended? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.